Imagine opening your eyes on the day you're born and, well, just never needing to close them again. Welcome to our latest explainer. Today, we're diving into the ultimate thought experiment. We're talking about an existence with absolutely no bedtime, zero afternoon naps, and where every single hour of the day belongs entirely to you. So, what if you never needed to close your eyes again? Let's start with this totally intoxicating question, because honestly, at first glance, eliminating sleep sounds like the greatest upgrade in human history, right? Think about it. No more insomnia, no lost hours tossing and turning in the dark, and definitely no waking up groggy to a blaring alarm clock. Just pure, 100% uninterrupted potential. Now, you might already know that the average person spends a full third of their life asleep. To put that into perspective, for every 60 years you're alive, 20 of them are surrendered entirely to the pillow. 20 years! Eliminating sleep completely shifts the math of our existence. It essentially gives us back this enormous, almost incomprehensible chunk of our lifespan. And by reclaiming that lost time, the math gets absolutely staggering. Every single human would instantly gain a massive 120 extra days every single year. Just think about that for a second. 120 extra days. That is a whole extra season, year after year, just waiting to be filled with action, learning, and creation. With all that unprecedented time on our hands, we'd see a global productivity explosion. I mean, students could master complex subjects in half the time. Doctors could treat way more patients, literally clearing out wait lists. Scientists could run experiments nonstop, around the clock, passing data to fresh minds without ever hitting pause. Within just a few short decades, global economies would be growing at record speeds. Fields like space exploration, medicine, and AI, they would leap forward by entire generations. Honestly, it sounds like an absolutely perfect future. But here's where our explainer takes a bit of a dark turn. You see, the end of sleep means the total death of a quiet, restorative night. Instead of peaceful roads, dim lights, and a resting planet, night simply becomes another endless shift. We're talking 24/7 gridlock traffic, permanently glowing skylines that never, ever dim, and sprawling factories just humming at full capacity without a single break. Because humanity refuses to pause, the planet itself gets pushed to the brink. We'd see skyrocketing electricity consumption, right? Massive power plants would be forced to run nonstop just to keep the lights on. Light pollution would aggressively spread across entire continents, basically erasing the stars from our view. And tragically, nocturnal wildlife, things like owls, bats, fireflies, sea turtles, they'd be entirely displaced. They would struggle and likely fail to survive simply because they lose the essential darkness they evolved to depend on. And it's not just the planet getting pushed to the brink. It's us. You might think companies would hand out more leisure time with all this newfound productivity, but history, and let's be real here, basic corporate greed, shows otherwise. Relentless competition means companies are definitely not going to settle for standard 8-hour schedules. Expectations would quickly be pushed up to 12 or maybe even 16-hour shifts, just to stay competitive in a world that literally never sleeps. Because ultimately, having more free time doesn't guarantee more freedom. Actually, doing just enough becomes much, much harder when everyone else also has 24 usable hours. So instead of this utopia of leisure and hobbies, people would become trapped in an endless cycle of forced productivity. The whole concept of a work-life balance, that would slowly just disappear entirely from our vocabulary. Now, moving on to the silent mental cost, we have to realize that losing sleep means losing our dreams. Sure, our brains would evolve to not need rest, but look at what we're sacrificing here. Dreams have been the mysterious nighttime source of some of history's absolute greatest discoveries. I mean, the periodic table, legendary musical masterpieces, massive scientific breakthroughs, and entire sprawling novels, they were all born completely from our subconscious mind, just doing its work in the dark. So, a world without these subconscious stories and strange overnight adventures, well, it might be extremely logical and highly efficient, but it also becomes dangerously less imaginative. With no mysterious ideas forming overnight, we'd be living in a world with far fewer impossible ideas. And that would fundamentally alter human creativity forever. And this hyper-efficient, sleepless world, it would also change us on a deeply personal level. Even our most intimate relationships would begin to fragment. Just think about how parents softly tuck their kids into bed, or how couples talk about their day before falling asleep together. Without sleep, those quiet, grounding family rituals vanish completely. Society would fracture. You'd have morning people, afternoon people, and night people all rotating through completely different continuous lifestyles, basically operating like ghosts, passing each other under the exact same roof. Which brings us to this really fascinating psychological phenomenon. Without the natural closure of nighttime, psychologists suggest we'd enter a strangely continuous reality. It's called continuous time. Right now, every morning feels like a fresh beginning, right? But without sleep, the days would seamlessly blend together. Weeks would just fly by. Life would begin to feel like one incredibly long, uninterrupted moment. Why? Because our brains would lack the natural pauses needed to actually structure human experience and organize our memories. Zooming back out to a macro level, the consequences get even heavier. All these extra waking hours mean more continuous production and more consumption, which demands a massive, accelerating drain on our planetary resources. Think about what it takes to support a population that is actively awake 100% of the time. The daily demand for food, fresh water, energy, housing, transportation, it would all multiply exponentially. And the outcome of that demand? It's pretty catastrophic. As human populations explode and technology accelerates just to keep up, the environmental pressure becomes enormous. We'd see human expansion rapidly consuming whatever's left of the natural world. Cities would frantically expand into ancient forests, endless farmland would replace wildness, and natural habitats would shrink to absolutely nothing. Ironically, our greatest biological gift, waking consciousness, would transform into the absolute greatest burden on Earth. But human nature is resilient, and it deeply craves balance. In a civilization that literally never stops, people would eventually have to voluntarily disappear for hours just to manufacture the breaks our ancestors received naturally. We would essentially invent sleep all over again. We'd probably just call it something highly marketable, like, artificial rest periods. Vacations would become fiercely sacred. Meditation would be strictly essential. Total digital blackouts would become a common, maybe even mandated practice, simply because the mind still desperately craves moments of complete silence. All of this brings us to a really beautiful realization about our biology. Sleep isn't simply lost time. It's not some weird flaw in our evolutionary design. It is a vital, non-negotiable mechanism that forces us to slow down, to recover, to reflect, and to just disconnect from the noise. It might actually be the hidden system keeping all of civilization balanced. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with a final, provocative thought to ponder tonight when you close your eyes and let the world finally rest. Perhaps the question isn't what we would do if we never needed sleep. The real question is, what if sleep is one of the very reasons humanity survived at all? Thanks for exploring this fascinating thought experiment with us today. Keep wondering, and hey, have a really good night's rest.